Presiding Officer, I congratulate Jenny Minto on her speech and on the motion. The BBC is indeed a precious British institution which sets itself high standards. It most often meets those standards, but it doesn't always, and that's to be expected because, for one reason, the output of the BBC is so broad and varied, including the description that was given of the output of BBC Scotland. The BBC is a gift that we actually share with the whole world, and the brand is sound, it stands for something. All over the world, people listen and watch BBC broadcasts, including those originating, as has been mentioned, in Scotland. People put a tremendous trust in what the BBC say. They listen to podcasts, BBC productions on global streaming platforms like Netflix and Prime. The BBC is a British institution. It's also a global institution. And it's promoting our Britishness, our Scottishness. Not in an in-your-face sort of a way, but in a reassuring steadiness sort of a way. And the BBC provides a window for us on the world, and it also provides a window for the rest of the world on Britain, with all of our diversity and richness of tradition. Those images of Scotland as our late Queen was brought from Balmoral to Holyrood last September, broadcast all over the world. And they told their own story of Scotland's beauty, her people's generosity, and Queen Elizabeth's love of Scotland. I absolutely believe in the concept of public sector broadcasting. I believe the BBC has played, does play, and will continue to play a central role in the life of our nation. But I do regularly question its leadership and their priorities. I can't believe the BBC bosses really think it's a bright idea to abolish the BBC singers, all to save £1.5 million. I'd say, come on, BBC, it's not good enough. And all that fuss about Gary Lineker's tweets, who cares about what Gary Lineker thinks? He's paid rather handsomely, 15 times, roughly, the salary of the Cabinet Secretary. He's paid all that money to talk about football on the telly. That's it. Now, about the business model, I understand it can be tempting for those in the BBC hierarchy to resist change. If it ain't broke, why fix it, as the saying goes? But this is complacent thinking. As the world and society changes, the BBC must change with it. Yes, it can be guided by the past, but we shouldn't be entrenched by the past. The idea of a tax on TV viewing seems to me to be something that doesn't belong quite in the 21st century. I don't believe it's going to endure. So alternative funding models need to be explored. And I'm open to consideration of all the alternatives and to all the flexibilities that could come with those changes, including the BBC leveraging its global brand to secure its income and preeminence. But the BBC must be bold in embracing not only the future, but the present. And so to my main item, Deputy Presiding Officer, the big ticket, as it were, I really don't feel that BBC Scotland, as a public service broadcaster, is giving adequate coverage to the proceedings of this Parliament. I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again, because I genuinely believe it. The BBC Scotland channel, why doesn't it broadcast the proceedings of this chamber live and uninterrupted? You shouldn't have to navigate the internet to find the live broadcast of Scotland's Parliament. You should be able to switch on your telly. BBC Scotland is broadcasting This is BBC Scotland between midnight and 7 p.m. Why can't they take the live feed from this Parliament and distribute it as a public service? And in doing so, let more people engage with their Parliament, making it easier for people to tune in. This, I believe, is the responsibility of a national broadcaster, of a public service broadcaster, and I don't understand why it doesn't happen. So, over its 100 years in Scotland, the BBC has shown it can, and it does, produce high-quality programmes for TV, radio, podcasts. I want the BBC to prosper. I want its influence across the planet to be enhanced in the next 100 years, to promote the values of decency, democracy and individual liberty, and to have nation truly speak peace unto nation.